This is going live. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Kath Armstrong from the Cheapskates Club, and the hand you may or may not see, or the voice you may or may not hear, over here to my left is Hannah. Hannah is our moderator tonight, so she'll be checking the comments. If you'd like to join the live chat, you need to be logged into your Gmail or YouTube account. Now, that's a YouTube requirement. It's not one of my crazy ideas. If you don't have a YouTube or Gmail account, you can leave comments in the section below the video. Now, tonight, if you have a question, could you please put it in capital letters, all uppercase, so it stands out amongst the chat? The comments scroll by so quickly that questions can get lost if they don't stand out. I'll do my best to answer the questions towards the end of the show. So while we're waiting, although we've got a good crowd here tonight, just a gentle reminder that daylight saving starts next Sunday morning. Yay! So for viewers in Queensland and Western Australia, the show will be an hour earlier from next Tuesday. I'll still be sending the reminder email and the Facebook post, of course. So I think most people are here, so let's get started. Why do I say buy what you eat for your stockpile? Well, if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that, hold on just one moment, folks.
What's going on?
I say that, there's no point buying that, case of smoked oysters in tomato sauce, even if they are just 10 cents a tin, if you don't eat them, or if you only use one can once a year on New Year's Eve. That's poor economy. There's better things you can be doing with that money that you've put out for the case of smoked oysters in tomato sauce. So buy what you eat. I buy what we eat. Actually, I buy the ingredients to make what we eat. I put the ingredients in our pantry, and I'm able to buy them within our grocery budget. Now, remember, I'm a preparer, not a prepper, and ingredients give you options. I don't have buckets of grain stored, enough for 40 years of wheat or rice or whatever. And you won't find tubs of medicine stashed away in our house. We don't have weapons or ammunition stored. And, we probably won't until we move to the country. There's no point in the city. I'm a preparer, not a prepper. But what I do have is a pantry filled with the ingredients to make the food that we eat. The cleaning items that we use, the first aid items that will see us through most things that could be home treated, the toiletries that we use. We even have the garden supplies that we use, the seeds, the spare hose, the tools, things for home maintenance that we need and use. Why? Because we live in a city, in a peaceful country. Now, I know some of you are preppers. But before you start shaking your heads and screaming at me that, I'm so naive and I'm wrong, just wait. Just listen to what I've got to say. I store the ingredients to make the things we eat and use and need because they are the things that most of the people around us eat and use and need. So when you're telling me I'm wrong and I should be stockpiling anything I can get my hands on, I'm going to say, no, I'm not wrong. I am using the resources I have at hand to build the pantry that will keep my family, and in a pinch, extended family and friends. It's a pantry that contains things that in an emergency or a crisis, I can use to not only care for us, but to barter for anything we run out of or find we don't have. Again, because the people around us pretty much use, need, and have the things that we do. They may be in a different form, but they have them. So, we want to be able to maintain our lifestyle in an emergency, in a crisis. That was one of the things way back when disaster struck that urged me on to become a cheapskate. I did not want to change our lifestyle. We may not have had jobs, we may not have had any money, but I did not want to change our lifestyle. I can be a tad stubborn, and I did not want to change our lifestyle. Hannah's nodding her head over here. I can see out of the corner of my eye. But most of the people around us are like us. They don't want to have to change their lifestyles either. And if it's an emergency or a crisis and lifestyles might have to change because we're not prepared, then if I've got things that I can trade with them, barter with them, we're all going to benefit. But only the things that we eat, that we need, that we use. So the ingredients and items on my pantry shelves are useful for me. They're useful for my family. They don't go to waste. They are not sitting there taking up valuable real estate. And yes, my pantry shelves are very valuable real estate. If supermarkets can put a value on shelf space, so can we, folks. I consider my pantry an investment, and the ROI, the return on that investment, is huge. Think along the lines of 100%. Not many investments will give you a straight up 100% return. Pantries will. Now, I shop within our budget. I look for sales and specials and bulk deals. I'm not afraid to buy generic products. You all know that. If you don't like it, you can always go back to your favourite brand. I love to find a reduced to clear sticker on something we use, and I will never knock back free food or other pantry items. I grow as much as I can, so the value of our pantry is much more than the monetary investment. Much, much more than the monetary investment. Now, I've published my pantry lists a few times, and I talk about them all the time. So if you want to go back through some of the videos, you'll find out what's on them. If you're interested, or you can go to the Cheapskates Club website, and the link's in the box below if you want to, and use the search, which is located top right, to find them. But I want you to know that when you stock your pantry, think first about what you eat, what you use, and what you need, and stock the ingredients or the materials to make those things. Then, if you have the space and the cash, remember, we do not go into debt to build a pantry. We do not go into debt to build a pantry. The idea is to save us money, time, and energy. And during food shortages, hunger, you can add extras to your pantry. Now, right now, adding extras to the pantry is a very wise thing to be doing. This week, the news is full of the possibility of a shortage of medicines and drugs and some foods due to the port strike. Now, these are drugs that are needed for cancer treatments and to control diabetes, and some that are, being held up. So it's just another reason to keep the pantry stocked. And remember, I've talked before about medicines being a part of your pantry. Now, I don't want to get political about this. I'm not interested in the politics, but I am interested in the fact that there are ships full of items we need stuck offshore. So this, on top of everything else, is going to cause shortages and hardships. The Cheapskates Christmas Countdown starts on Thursday. Now, this year, more than ever before, it is going to be essential if you want to celebrate anywhere close to how you normally would. Then we've got the supermarkets. Now, a fortnight ago, it was Woolworths warning us of shortages before Christmas. This week, both the majors are saying they're cutting the cost of Christmas and starting the Christmas sales early for us. Well, call me a skeptic, but seriously, it's not for the consumer's benefit. They start their Christmas sales now, then if things run out, it won't be a stock shortage, but rather everyone shopping early. There won't be a supply issue. It will be everyone taking their advice and shopping early. Maybe, maybe not. Again, call me a skeptic, Seriously? I'm happy to see prices fall. Not so keen on their reasoning. Now, look, I shop ahead anyway. Most of you know that I do that. I shop early for Christmas, and my Christmas grocery shopping is always done by the 30th of November, all bar the perishables. So it's just something for you to think about. If you're not an early Christmas shopper, get in now. Now, you might be muttering under your breath about how it's easy for me to say build a pantry and shop now, because mine's already built. You need to build it on the money you have, folks. You can build a pantry on the money you have without extra spending if you do a bit of planning. I had to build mine that way. We didn't have spare money. I had my shopping list down to the cent. And if something was 5 cents, cost more than 5 cents, the total was more than 5 cents of what I calculated, something had to go back. We did not have the money. So I understand that it's hard. I understand that there are challenges to building a pantry. It takes time. It takes a while, but that's okay. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and a good, well-stocked pantry isn't either. Don't think you need to do it all at once, because you don't. So how do you do it? Well, first off, do an inventory of what you have, then of what you use. And you'd think they'd be the same, but you know, things happen, and sometimes the pantry has things lurking in the back that you don't know where it came from, you don't need it, you don't use it, it's just there. Then write a list of the things that you do eat. Now, this next step after this takes a little bit of effort, I'm sorry, but you'll have to do it. I can't do it for you. Nobody else can do this for you. You have to put the effort in. You need to work out how much of each thing you eat and use and how often. Then multiply it by however many weeks or months you want your pantry stockpile to feed you. So if you use 200 grams of rice at a time and you eat it 5 times a month, that's a kilo of rice a month. So 3 kilos per quarter, or every 3 months, 6 kilos per 6 months, 12 kilos a year. Easy. That's that's just an example, folks. We eat a lot more rice than that. I use a lot more rice for all sorts of things than that, but it's just an example of how to do it. Then, once you've got all that done, every week, check the half price sales. When things on your list are on half price, buy at least 2. You're not going to be paying any more, so it won't affect your grocery budget. 2 for the price of 1, so you're not out of pocket. You've just gained something for your stockpile. The other thing to do is always look for reduced to clear stickers on the things that you eat and use, and snap them up. If you've got the cash, snap them up. Even foods with only a short time before the best before date can be frozen for the future. You might not be able to use it right away, but you can put it away for the future. If you have the dehydrator, you might be able to dehydrate it. Then it's long-term shelf-stable storage. And check out bulk prices. Now, bulk doesn't mean cheaper. It means more. So remember that just because you're buying more, you may not necessarily be paying less. Bulk means more, not cheaper. Look it up in the dictionary if you don't trust me. But, you need to know your prices. Now, Hannah's really good with unit prices. This is where your price book comes in. Keep a record of your prices with your shopping list. You will know if something really is a good deal. Check your unit prices. And look, if someone offers you food, maybe a neighbour has too many zucchinis or lemons, always accept them. Accept them graciously and then put it to good use. If you have to freeze it till later on, you can do that. You can turn fruits into jams or marmalades. You can stew them for pies or whatever. You can use silver beet and spinach, turn it into green smoothies. There's always something to do. And if you're stuck for an idea, then Google it. Mr. Google's full of great information. Some of it's dubious, but some of it's really, really good. So Google it if you're not sure what to do, or come over to Cheapskates Chatter and ask, because the people over there will have a gazillion ideas for you. The last thing that you can do to help build your stockpile on your budget is grow at least some of what you eat. That was a hard one for me because I was never a gardener. I love gardening now. Absolutely adore my garden now. But in the beginning, I wasn't really keen on the vegetable garden side of it. I love it now. Grow at least some of what you eat. It might be a pot of parsley and 2 buckets with tomatoes in them. But don't say you can't because you don't have time, or you don't have a garden, or you don't have dirt or whatever. No excuses. Now's not the time for excuses. We're building our pantries. We're looking for a reason to keep them built. So it's time to be doing. Get your buckets, pots, dig a couple of holes in the ground and plant some food. It will help you. Now I noticed in the chat before that someone was able to get cauliflowers for 99 cents. Woohoo! That's a really good deal. Bushy Park up the road from us. I don't go to Bushy Park. Big Watermelon it's called now. I don't like it, so I don't go there very often. I find their fruit and veg is of dubious quality. So it's Hannah telling her father to be quiet there. But they've had lettuces 3 for $4 or something, and cabbages 2 for $5. It haven't been too bad price, but the quality wasn't really good. So if you can get them like that, do it. But buy what you eat. Stock what you eat. Spend your money on what you eat, what you use, what you need. Don't worry about the other stuff. I will never tell you to keep or buy or grow things that you don't eat or don't use just to build a stockpile. That's just plain false economy. It's just wrong. You're spending money for no reason. You're better to put your money into things that will give you a good return on your investment. So right now we're all frantically trying to look ahead and see what's coming, or at least I know I am. Look ahead and see what's coming, what's happening in the world, how things are going to play out. And, even when our, Woolies guys saying, things are going to be a bit short by Christmas, it's a bit scary for us. So, the past week I've heard the future called all sorts of things. It's been Armageddon, the Holodomor, mass starvation's coming. There's 3 things, 3 scary things. Don't be scared, be prepared. Go back and watch last week's show. But when or if these events happen, if you have things that you don't eat or use, rather than the things that you do eat, do use, do need, they won't help you one little bit. Now, someone suggested in the comments a few weeks ago changing the way we stockpile, because during an emergency, our food needs will change. Well, they won't. Not if you keep your pantry filled with what you eat and the things needed to replace them as you eat them. Stocking what you eat in ingredient form will save you from food fatigue. And yes, you may not be aware of it, but that is actually a recognised syndrome. It pretty much means you get sick of eating the same thing over and over and over. Oh, crikey, that can happen anytime. We here in Australia, we live in a very affluent country, and we as a nation eat very, very well, going by our waistlines, sometimes too well. We, to the point where we can be bored with the most delicious foods simply because they're common to us. They're no longer treats or special. we get food fatigue. We suffer from food fatigue. So imagine how boring it would be if you had to live on rice and beans for the rest of the year. It would be awful. So I will tell you, and I will encourage you to keep the ingredients to make the things that you eat and enjoy on hand, because ingredients give you options. You have choices. You can have a variety in what you eat. It might be, flour and water and whatever. It's the way you make them that's different. It gives you choices. You have options. I mean, flour and water and sugar, or flour and milk and sugar, add an egg, pancakes, or a cake, or muffins, different things, or damper. Flour and butter, pastry. You can make a pie or a tart, or you can make sausage rolls. You could do pasties. You could do quiche. You have the options when you have ingredients. It's really important to keep your options open. And when your pantry is stocked with ingredients, you have those options. So, a side benefit of having the options and the variety is you'll maintain good health. Eating the same thing over and over doesn't ensure good health, doesn't ensure any health. It might fill a belly, but it gets boring really quickly and it doesn't do much more than fill those bellies. So, we've all had kids that will only eat peas. I have a cousin whose son to this day, and he's about to turn 15, will only eat what he calls yellow potato. So it has to be either baked or chips. That's the vegetable. He will not eat any other vegetables. Boring. And so every morning his mother pops him a multivitamin because he gets his nutrition, doesn't drink milk, doesn't eat cheese, yellow potatoes. So it might be fun for him, but it's not healthful. So if you've got variety, you've got a better chance of staying healthy. The other thing that will help you is changing the way your pantry is preserved. So I'm slowly changing to more shelf-stable foods so that we won't be as reliant on the freezers and the electricity to run them, partly because it's expensive, but, Now, this means that, yes, I've had to put a bit of effort in. I've ramped up the dehydrators and the canning and the bottling. But pressure canning is great for meats. Chicken, corned beef roasts, prepared meals like spag bowl sauce, chili, soups can all be pressure canned. Pressure canning makes them shelf stable, so I don't need to rely on the freezer for them. The other thing is I've decided dehydrating is fun. I actually really like dehydrating. It's just amazing. I love that in just a few hours I can put something into the dehydrator, walk away, come back, and it's dried into a shelf-stable, well-preserved fruit or vegetable or even mince. And when it's cool, I can package it up, put it on the shelf, and the power can go out. Doesn't matter. I don't need the power to keep that food fresh. So I mentioned drying mince. I know that dehydrating mince like I do it is not recommended, and I'm not suggesting that you do. I'm not telling you to do it. I do, and it works for me and my family, and I love dehydrated mince for the convenience. But best of all, it frees up so much freezer room. It's just amazing. And in a power outage, and we're already being warned of definite power outages this coming summer. Although on the news tonight they were saying it's probably going to be a wetter summer than normal, who would know? I won't be stressing about all the food in the freezers. Even with a generator, keeping 4 freezers and 2 fridges at optimum temperatures is a juggling game that I would much rather not have to worry about. And this is why I say buy what you eat for your pantry and your stockpile, so that you have things that you will use that won't go to waste. You have the options and choices to be able to make things, change the way things are done. You can save money, you can save time, you can save energy. It makes sense to me. It may or may not make sense to you, but it makes sense to me. And I'm not living in La La Land. Really, I'm not. I'm well aware of the social unrest that's plagued our city, our state, our country this year. But right now, I'm doing the best I can to prepare my family and home for whatever the future chooses to throw at us, and I'm doing it on our budget. I would hope that you will be able to do that too. And you know what? If you've got a stocked pantry and you don't need it for any sort of emergency use, it's there as a backup, so that if you feel like you want a week off or a fortnight off or a month off from shopping, you can take it. You don't need to go to the groceries, supermarket, greengrocer, butcher, whatever. Your pantries are full. And you can sit back and shop at home first. So buy what you eat, need, and use for your stockpile. Okay, floss. Any questions?
Gotta scroll through now, Mum.
Now she's got to scroll through them. Sorry. Let me see. Can I see if there's any questions?
Probably.
Okay. Let me see. Looking. All right. Sorry, guys. Ooh, Joy's already got a dried fruit mince, and 2 turkey thigh roasts. Yes, good for you, Joy. We should go to Joy's house for Christmas. Right now. I saw a question. Where'd it go? Capital letters, where'd it go? Okay, from Maureen. Can I use brown vinegar with a bit of sugar as a substitute for balsamic vinegar? Have no idea, Maureen. I've never tried it. I honestly don't know. Brown vinegar is a malt vinegar. Is balsamic based on a wine vinegar? Don't know. It doesn't really matter. Vinegar's vinegar. I don't know. You'd have to. Balsamic's just that little bit thicker, so you probably need to reduce it a bit first. I do brown vinegar and brown sugar. Something to look at. Okay, now, Estelle, how do I convince my husband that electricity failure is important to prepare for? Well, the only easy way to do it is turn the power off and, then watch him scrabble to see what he's doing, charge his phone or his tablet or whatever, run the fridge, the freezer, the stove if you've got electric cooking. I don't know. Just it is important. You need to be able to look. In Australia, our power outages we've got a fairly reliable power grid, really. But there are always going to be things that cause an outage. Now, if you're in far north Queensland, cyclones come in, power goes out. People up there plan for it and prepare for it. Here in Melbourne, we don't lose power very often. In fact, we've been here in this house 15 years and we've had 2 power outages. Now, one was a doozy and it lasted a long time. The other was only a few hours. But, plan for them. remember the summer a few years ago where Adelaide just had day after day after day of brownouts and minimum power because they didn't have the power in the state. So planning for it, it's pretty hard. You can do the thing. You can get your torches, you can get your solar lights, you can get your solar chargers for phones and tablets and things. They are all good to have. If you have a freezer, you need to remember, a big freezer, a deep freezer, you need to remember to not open it. If you don't open it, and if it's packed full and you don't open it, it should stay frozen for at least 48 hours. After 48 hours, it will start to defrost. The little freezer on top of your fridge is usually good for between 12 and 24, depends on the fridge and what's in it, of course. So if it's packed full of meat and it's really solidly well packed, it will stay frozen a lot longer than if it is packed full of bread and cakes. Those sorts of things. You need to be aware that you just can't open the fridge and the freezer if the power goes out. You just can't. And if it doesn't come back on quickly, within that 48 hours, then you need to be prepared to do an awful lot of cooking so that you don't lose what you've got. I know 2 friends who've had their fridges stop working, their big freezers on their fridges stop working, and they've not realised for a couple of days. And they have, poor Linda was up for nearly 18 hours straight, just cooking everything so that it could be refrozen when the new fridge was delivered. It's really important that he understands that the contents of that freezer are money. It's an investment. You've put hard-earned money into that freezer. You've had to work for the money. You've paid tax on it. You've spent time shopping, preparing, whatever. So there's money in that freezer. Now, would he just dump that much money? Would he just take, if your freezer contents are worth $2,000, would he just take $2,000 and flush it down the toilet or burn it in the backyard or put it in the bin and let someone else find it? Maybe that's how you get through to him, work out how much it's worth, and remember, not how much it costs, but how much it's worth. Because if you've got markdowns in there, you're going to put the value at the ticketed price, not the markdown price, and show him how much it's worth. Can you afford, if the power went out and you lost the contents of your freezer, you couldn't claim it on your insurance, would you have the money to be able to go and restock it with what you lost? Ask him that. All right. Now, where am I? Sorry. Kerry, we've just upgraded our out-of-date gas bottles. Try to always have 2. Yes. Well, we have 2 for the barbecue, 1 for the smoker and 1 for the van. So we're sort of covered with gas bottles. Plus I have a lot of little canisters for the small camp stove. Hannah's laughing. There's one outage in a large area, including Mount Evelyn and another email over. Yeah. Power outages are becoming more common. Our power supply isn't perhaps up to standard, as it's certainly not as reliable as it was 30 years ago. No. Yeah. Annette, if your mum doesn't want to keep a stocked pantry, that's fine. But you know that you can feed your family. If for whatever reason you couldn't shop for the next however long, your pantry is full of food. Your husband and kids won't go hungry. That's how I used to look at it. People used to joke about the supermarket. We'll just come to my house instead of going to the supermarket because the queue is not as long. You know what? I put a lot of time and effort into stocking our pantry.
You're paying double the retail value.
I put a lot of time and effort into stocking our pantry with the stuff that we eat, that we need, that we use for us, for our benefit. Now, I'm not averse if, someone was starving or a disaster happened to them. I have no problem with helping out. But don't mock me and, be sarcastic about it and then expect me to just hand over for nothing because, you've got plenty food. Because we've had to work for the money to buy that food. I've had to do the shopping and I don't like grocery shopping. I had to organise it. It took a lot of time, a lot of effort on our part to be able to have the pantry we have. So if people want to mock it and knock it, that's fine. These days, it's water off the duck's back because I know as soon as something goes pear-shaped for them, whose door are they going to knock on? And I will help them. I will help them. I would never turn anyone away. But I'd certainly give them an earful first in a very nice, polite, smiling way and let them know, see, you should have been, instead of going out for lunch, you should have been buying some pineapple and some cereal or something. No, Delaney, you shouldn't assume that insurance will cover everything. You need to actually
read the fine print.
Read the fine print. But you can actually now, Carol, one of our cheapskaters, she's an amazing lady, during the bushfires a couple of years ago, lost her freezers. Power went out, was out for 6 days or something. So freezers were lost. She was actually able to claim to the cent what it had cost her because she kept her inventories. So she knew that she had X amount of mince, X amount of chicken fillets, X amount of steak, sausages, whatever. She even had the freezer meals listed, like she had 2 portions of spag bowl, 3 of curry, whatever. It was all listed along with the bread, the pastry, the fruits, the vegetables, everything on her inventory. And then because she keeps her grocery tracking spreadsheet, she was able to go back to those and show them how much it all cost. And she got every cent back from her insurance company. I'm pretty sure a lot of people were out of pocket because they couldn't prove that. They might have thought they might have had $2,000 worth of meat in their freezer. And $2,000 worth of meat in your freezer is not a lot of meat.
Not these days.
Not these days, no. When you're looking at, $20, $30, $40 a kilo for meat, it's not a lot. It's not a lot of meat. So Carol was able to get all her money back because she had her inventories and her tracking sheets up to date and she kept them, which is really good. Now, all right. Maureen, Coles today had white sandwich loaf bread marked down to 29 cents. She bought 10 loaves. Breadcrumbs, French toast, toasties, dippy eggs, yes. Lots of things happening. Sandwiches. Roll them out and use them to make pastry cases. Lots of things to do. Delaney says, people laugh at a stockpile, but she's doing what she needs to do for her. Exactly. So they can laugh all they like. But, who's going to have the last laugh in a crisis? Supermarkets run out of food, or, this port strike becomes a transport strike and suddenly the groceries can't get from the warehouse to the supermarket. You don't even need to worry about it. It's a bit like back in March when everyone was madly trying to grocery shop. And I'm like, well, nothing. I was trying to figure out if we needed anything. I was actually panicking because I didn't need anything. It was like, oh my, I couldn't think of anything that I needed, that we needed. There was nothing, fresh milk, but then we've got powdered milk and we had UHT milk. So it was really interesting. It's a weird feeling to be worried because you don't need something. All right. Bread pudding, yep. Right. Okay, now where do I get a solar phone charger? Where did we get ours? Any camping shop should have them, but any phone place like Telstra or Vodafone or Virgin or
Don't think
they're around anymore. I don't know any phone place, a Mason or anywhere like that. Most of the department stores will have them in their camping section. Yeah. Annette, I saw that your money envelopes worked for you. I was very excited. I loved reading that. It was really good. And they look so pretty too.
What's it like to use actual cash?
Hannah is asking what it's like to use actual cash. Because apart from the fact that she hasn't been anywhere for 6 months pretty much, she's not shopping, and anything she has bought has been online, so it's been internet banking or whatever. She hasn't used cash, so her cash tins are a bit light on, but her bank account's pretty hefty. She was quite pleased with that. But yeah, what's it like to use cash? I thought about getting some cash out last week just to see what it felt like, just to see what happens if I actually went into the store and tried to use cash, because I don't know what would happen. Good for you, Joy. Yep. It's a great look. If you have a stocked pantry and there does happen to be some sort of crisis, disaster, pandemic, cyclone, hurricane, earthquake, flood, whatever, and people need help, not only are you able to do it, but yeah, you can use it as a learning experience for them. Now, some people are a bit thick, or some people choose to be a bit thick, and they will never learn. But there are others who, it's a bit like telling a child, oh, hot, Bernie's, don't touch, it's hot. Little ones don't know what hot is until they actually feel hot. They almost have to be burnt before they understand what it is. So some people actually need to have the disaster happen to them before they know that they actually do have to prepare for it or think about it or have some sort of plan. So, but there are others that will just never learn. And that's okay, because we can't all be the same. Yes, yeah, we've got the car chargers for the phones and the cameras and the tablets and all sorts of things that work really well too. Well, Joy, I'm glad they don't think that your shopping methods are quite that weird. Seriously, I remember reading a book ages ago now, and it was pretty much, all these people that worry about saving 10 cents here and a dollar there are just wasting their time. You are much better to be able to save money on buying a fridge, because that's a decent amount of money saved. And I read it again because I thought I'd misunderstood what was said. No. And to me, yeah, it's great to be able to save, $100, $150, $200 off a fridge. But that's a one-off saving. Whereas if you can save, $2 off this and 50 cents off that and 32 cents off that, it all adds up. And over time, over the course of a year, those savings will add up to a lot more than that one-off saving. So while we should be looking to, save on big purchases, and we should be trying to negotiate better deals on our insurances and our gas and electricity and phone bills and whatever. It's the little everyday savings that seem like nothing. It's a bit like, one cup of coffee isn't going to hurt, but one cup of coffee 5 times a week, 48 weeks a year will hurt. So they add up. It adds up, and it adds up really quickly. So, saving like we do might seem weird to some people, but it's well worth it. And it's why we can live the good life that we live. It's why we can, we can go away on holidays and we can plan our trips. And I heard on the news tonight that Western Australia might be opening the borders. And I thought, we're just going to get through South Australia first.
You fly over them.
We can't fly over them. We have to go. We can't get to New South Wales either. So it's going to be a long time before we get our trip. But anyway, exactly, Joy. All the 10 cents will be able to add up to being able to afford the fridge. And you can pay cash for it outright. So you're not paying any interest on it. You own it straight away. Perfect. Yeah, and for the peace of mind, I agree, Joy, because having owing money is stressful, and there must be an awful lot of people right now who are very stressed because money is tight, and Hannah, she was talking about in a general way some of her clients, and they have so many debts, and none of them are worth anything because they're all on things that, as soon as they bought it, it had devalued. It wasn't worth what they paid for it anymore. So it's really important to think about the little things, and they add up. It's a bit like you've got, a bit of potato and a bit of carrot and a bit of celery and a little bit of half an onion and maybe some beans left over at the end of the week. So on their own, they don't look much. But when you put them in the pot and add a little bit of stock and cook it up, it's a really good soup. And it's a meal. It's a free meal because you've already covered the cost of those veggies. But little bits add up and make it, it's not difficult. It's just a different way of thinking and a different way of viewing how we use our money and how we spend our money. Yes, Joy. It was awful on Sunday. Was it Sunday night? That was on Channel 7. And he had $6 and she had $10 in the bank, and that was it. And they had bought swags and they were packing their house up to put their furniture in storage, and they were going to live free camp. And then there was someone else I was talking to, and I just felt like saying, but you had such a good job. Why did you have no savings? How can you possibly? Was a single man. He's a single fellow, no children, no responsibilities. Earns, almost double what Wayne and I do, and he has no money. He spends every cent he gets. How? How can you do that? I don't understand it. You have to stop spending. If you want to save, you have to stop spending. It's only for a short time, folks. It's only for a little time. If you you just stop spending. Buy your food, pay your rent, bare minimum phone plan, no new cars, no new shoes, no new hairstyles, no fancy nails, no eating out. You stop spending on everything but the absolute necessities until you've got your emergency fund set up. Once you've got that there, it's your buffer. If you want to go back and, paint your nails, get your nails done, or go to the whatever, you can do it. But in the grand scheme of a lifetime, just that little bit of time to build yourself that buffer is nothing. Is absolutely nothing if it's going to set you up for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years of living stress-free. Is it not worth it? I think it is. Right. Good for you, Annie. And what did Maureen say? Maureen says, take care of the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. Yes. Good old Benj. Now, Barb saves all her coins and under 8 weeks, she's $175 saved. Yep. Hannah saves, well, when she's got cash, she can save her coins too. That's how she paid for a trip to England and France. Annette's paying extra on a mortgage. It does. Uber Eats. High rent, afterpay, higher purchase, the list goes on. Yeah. Forgotten the girl's name. Anyway, a long time ago now, probably Hannah was just a baby, and I was doing a talk for chartered accountants, I think, and the other speaker was she was younger than me, young woman, and she and her husband are married. They didn't own a car. If they needed to go anywhere that they couldn't get to on public transport, they hired a car. And everyone, oh, that's very expensive. Well, no, it's actually cheaper for the 1 or 2 trips a year that they needed the car than it was to have a car loan and be paying the interest on it. And they boarded in someone's house. They didn't have a whole house to themselves. They didn't have a whole flat to themselves. They had one room and a shared kitchen and bathroom in someone else's home so that they could save up the deposit for their own home. And as it was, they were both working, and they ended up having a 55% deposit for their home. As she said, it was only for a little while, and that meant that they could go into their home and start their family because the mortgage was affordable on one wage. She understood that it's just for a little while. In the grand scheme of a lifetime, it's just for a little while. She understood that and worked it to her advantage. All right. So, well, game. Not sure, same but different, Maureen. All righty. Now, big problem is people want the biggest and latest of everything. Mortgages take 2 incomes. Well, you know what? Maybe, pardon?
They're not buying within their means.
They're not buying within their means. But maybe, Kerry, that now we're in a depression or a severe recession. I wish they'd make up their minds. They keep changing it on me. Maybe people will realise, because when we got married, it was you buy the best house you can afford, you buy the worst house in the best street you can afford, and you work like crazy and do all the painting and everything yourself and make it all pretty and homey. And then if you want to move on, then, 5 years or so, you put it on the market, you sell it, you've got a bit of equity in it, do the same thing. Worst house in the best street you can afford. And you keep doing that until you get to where you want to be. And you pay it and keep paying it. I don't think people are prepared to do that. Look, we started with nothing. We had a second-hand kitchen table and chairs. We had a second-hand lounge suite.
Retro.
Pardon?
Retro.
Retro, it is now. 31 years ago, it was just old and secondhand. The only new things we had were the fridge, the washing machine, and our bed. Everything else we owned was secondhand. The only new household householding things we had were what we got for engagement and wedding presents. Everything else was secondhand. Is what we did so that we could afford to buy our first home. Anyway, now, yep, baby steps, Joy, one thing at a time. And I think being prepared to, people say make the sacrifice, go without, but you're not really. You're getting ahead. You know, I don't consider I don't consider putting the money that we would have spent on going out for dinner once a week into the mortgage a sacrifice. I consider that getting ahead. That wasn't hardship to me. That was getting ahead.
You're saving money in the long run.
We are saving money in the long run, yes, but we're getting ahead. We're not going without. We're getting ahead. It's all in the way you think of it. Anyway, so all right. Yep. Yes, Kerry, one wage. Work your mortgage on one wage. Always. Okay. Alrighty, folks. So time's nearly up. Again, if I haven't answered any questions, I'll come back through and try and read them. I hope I haven't missed any, but put them in the comments underneath here and I will try and come back to them tomorrow. If you haven't already, thumbs up would be good. And if you haven't already subscribed, that will be nice too. Click the bell and you'll be notified when we've got new live shows coming up. And what else we can say? Oh, and if you know anyone, I always forget to say this. If you know anyone or you think anyone might benefit from tonight's show, anything we've talked about, any of the comments over here might help them, please feel free to share with your friends, family, colleagues, neighbours, enemies. I don't care. Just, share. All those things actually help our rankings with YouTube, which doesn't really help me or you too much, but it just means the channel's easier to find for people when they're searching for us. We'll pop up a bit more often. So, how do you pay off your mortgage? For us, the easiest thing was weekly. So we took our monthly amount, multiplied it by 12, divided by 52. We were a month ahead and then we just kept paying weekly. Anything extra went onto it. So birthday money, Christmas money, garage sale money, babysitting money. Who was that, your father?
Yeah.
Babysitting, anything went onto it to pay it off as quickly as we could. And we went without nothing really. We ate. We still, we survived. But we had a goal and we worked it. So there you go. All right. Okay, now. We're simple gifts and truths. Planners, will probably be digital. Oh, now, folks, next week is budget night. Federal budget. They put it off from May till next week. So I'm not sure whether we'll do a show next week because I might be glued to the budget. Or maybe not. I might decide that it's just, my budget works better than theirs anyway and leave it at that. So either way, I'll let you all know. Yep, what you want now. Yeah. The other thing to think about is temporary as opposed to permanent. I would rather work really hard for 5 years, so the rest of my life I don't have to. I can just enjoy life. It's just the way it is. Anyway, I will. I've lost. Sorry, guys. Okay. Good night. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll catch up with all your comments later on. Have a great week, and I'll let you know what's happening next Tuesday. Thank you. Bye.